Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here, taking a look at the Thursday race of the day. It is race 8 at Gulfstream Park. This one carded on the all-weather surface, going the mile and an eighth distance. It is an optional claiming 25,000 slash first level allowance, though really just a first level allowance because nobody is in for the $25,000 claiming tag. Mike, a field of 7 runners signed on, and it's a pretty competitive race. I guess the number 3 Aspen Dawn makes some sense as the favorite. She's been competing against some decent company recently on the turf, going out for the hot Mark Cassie barn. But I'll be interested to see how they bet the rest of this field, because I guess horses like the number 6 Shade of Pale and the number 7 Beau could take money. Don't exactly have thrilling recent form, but they do go out for some hot barns.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's hard to get excited about either one of the two outside horses, but maybe they're just really well spotted here for top connections. It does feel like you're going to probably have to take underlaid prices on them. I guess the advantage maybe for the 3 Aspen Dawn is you don't really have to worry about the 9 furlongs.
Yeah, she definitely gets distance. Actually, one of the horses that's turning back in here from 11 furlongs on the turf last time out. Let's take a look at the TimeformUS pace projector for this race to get a sense of how these fillies and mares might sort themselves out through the early stages. And you'll see that likely favorite, the number 3 Aspen Dawn, shown all the way at the back of the pack. She just has no early speed whatsoever, but she does get that LP flag indicating she's got the highest TimeformUS late pace rating. As far as the front end goes, Mike, the number 7 Beau does feel like she could make the lead here. I would expect the number 4 Awesome Spirit Gal to get a more aggressive ride in this spot than she did last time, but it's not like there's a ton of speed through this race when you go through all 7 runners.
Yeah, agreed. I didn't expect him to be going too fast up front early. We'll see if it works against, those 2 favorites that are sort of lingering towards the back of the pack here on the pace projector. Won't argue with how they have it laid out there, David. It seems like those are the right horses to be forward.
If you want to check out some other features in TimeformUS or handicap this race using DRF Formulator, just go to the DRF.com race of the day page, and you can handicap along with us, taking advantage of those free PPs for this Thursday race of the day. Let's go through this field in post position order, beginning with the number 1, Dea Matrona. This is a horse, Mike, that I thought showed some decent form last summer for the Chad Brown barn, competing in a claiming starter allowance race. She ran pretty well to be involved in a couple of photo finishes up at the Spa. Since then, her form hasn't really gone anywhere. She was not really competitive in a tough spot in the Pebbles, picked up pieces 2 back, claimed away from Chad Brown, and made her first start for the new barn last time. And again, just kind of picking up pieces towards the end. She's another one that's going to have to work out a trip in a race without much pace.
I know it seems like it might not set up great for her, and she might need a little help in this race. It's she's also first time on the surface, so who knows how she'll handle that. I guess the one thing that I liked about her, and I can't say that I love her in this race, is actually the 2 things. One that you mentioned, I did think she was in pretty good form. Chad got realistic with her last summer, ran her in the right races, and she was competitive. And now that she's not in that barn anymore, you'll just do way better on price going forward.
The number 2, Ms. Tart, has tried all 3 of the available surfaces throughout her career, multiple starts on the dirt, on the turf, and on synthetic. And when you start to pick apart her form, Mike, and you just focus in on the turf and synthetic races, the outlook looks a little more positive, because she's run some decent races on both of those surfaces, particularly when they stretched her out on the synth last time. We'll take a look at the replay of that race. It was against $35,000 beaten claimers, and she did not get an easy trip in here. She was wide around both turns, 4 wide around the clubhouse turn, 4 to 3 wide around the second turn. That's not a trip that usually works on any surface at Gulfstream Park, but she was able to take this race over and hold on to the wire against a field of decent quality for a claiming event. Now she's making her first start at the claim for a new barn.
Yeah, I gave her extra credit for the trip that she pulled in this race too. I mean, you can see that she struggled to put the race away late, but she was so wide throughout the running that I just had to give her extra credit. It's also worth noting that the horse she was dueling with all through the stretch was an odds-on favorite, and she just would not let that horse come back on her.
And she's making the first start of the claim for the Kevin Rice barn. I've got a DRF formulator fact for Kevin Rice, who does not claim a lot of horses over the past 5 years, only 22 starters in the sample, but he's won with 6 of them, 27% win rate, $3.50 ROI. And you can see Kevin approves of that stat as well with a thumbs up. Number 3 is Aspen Dawn. And Mike, this horse, as you said at the start, trying the surface for the first time, switching over to synthetic, but she has kept some pretty good company on the turf throughout throughout her career. They actually tried her in a tough spot, the Virginia Oaks, after she broke her maiden impressively at Colonial last summer, and since then has gone back into this first level allowance condition, and she keeps finishing well. She actually got a tough trip two back, making a backstretch move and was wide on the turn. Again, last time they tried to stretch her out in distance, so she's actually cutting back here. So you know that she's got class, you know that she handles the distance. We'll see about the surface.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that there are no questions, because there are certainly some, and if you're and they're going to ask you to take a short price on it, so you at least want to take a second and third look at her. She makes a lot of sense in this race. We'll see if the race sets up the right way for her and she can just make that late run. And listen, maybe she's just in the right spot, David, but I don't think I'd go too short on her.
And if you're looking for some clues that she might be able to handle the synthetic, her dam has produced some very versatile foals. She's actually the half sister to Owendale, who was a really good dirt horse.
Yeah.
So there's been some surface versatility in the pedigree. The number 4 is Awesome Spirit Gal. And Mike, this horse might look like one you'll want to toss at first glance when you see her buyer speed figures, or just a cup below some of the others in this field, especially when you focus on some of the races from up in Canada. But as you take a deeper dive, I think there's something here. She actually ran pretty well to win her first start in Canada when she won on the turf course at Fort Erie, closing from towards the back of the pack. I can't say I've ever watched too many turf replays from Fort Erie, but this horse actually made a nice late run on that surface. They stretched her out on the dirt two back, and she looked like she really handled the added distance, even though dirt might not even be her preferred surface. And then they switched to the synthetic for the first time in her career last time. Let's take a look at the replay of that race. They were not aggressive at all through the early stages, and she was held up behind a slow pace. And you can see here, she's the horse in the yellow cap, the number 4, who just is in behind this wall of horses, has nowhere to go in the stretch, steadying at the 8th pole here, ultimately switches out, and she finishes okay, but the race had already gotten away from her at this point. Mike, they won in gate to wire fashion on the dirt two back, and I think Luis Saez would be wise to go back to those tactics here.
Yeah, I could see them getting way more aggressive this time. Obviously, unlucky in that replay that we just watched there. And listen, you could see that trouble coming for her right from the start of that race.
Yep.
They rated her and put her just an impossible spot between and behind horses, and that was just a spot she could never get out of, and it really cost her. Saez should be more aggressive here. I'm not worried about this surface. Obviously, Lasix on as well. There's plenty to like here.
Yeah, she's 12 to 1 on the morning line. I'm skeptical she's actually going to go off that price, because I think the more you look, the more there is to like about Awesome Spirit Gal. The number 5 is Mexican Sugar, and she's a horse, another one who's been coming from off the pace in recent starts. She's been competing against some slightly weaker company, mostly at Parks in Delaware last year, made a start at Gulfstream last time, but that was a 25,000 beaten claimer where she wasn't really competitive, so just kind of hard to build a case for this one.
Yeah, it didn't show anything in that most recent start. The prior 2 races, they tried cutting her back to 5 furlongs, and she actually ran okay in one of those races. I don't know. I the more I looked at her, the more I thought, I guess there's a chance she could try to get forward in this race. I still didn't think she was good enough.
The number 6 is Shade of Pale, who, as we said at the start, likely to take money just merely due to the connections going out for trainer Chad Brown and ridden by Irad Ortiz Jr. in this race. And Mike, she was visually impressive when she broke her maiden at the Belmont and Aqueduct meet 3 back in September. But then Chad Brown picked out a really weird spot for her, trying the Sands Point off that maiden victory where she was a big price, was uncompetitive that day. And her last race is one that's kind of tough to overlook, because she got bet down to 3-5 at Tampa Bay Downs against a field that she was supposed to be competitive against. And yes, the pace didn't really work out for her, but she never lifted a hoof in that race. And now she's switching to the synthetic. It just feels like they're trying to search for something that's going to wake her up.
Yeah, she just didn't do any running last time. It's hard to want, and you're going to have to take some kind of short price on her in here, David. It's just hard to want any kind of a short price on her. I did think she started out with some potential in her career. I thought her first couple of starts were sort of deceptively good. I was with you on the maiden one. I thought she looked good winning that day. It hasn't really worked out since then. And the more I looked at her, the more I just felt like I think Chad was just looking for races at maybe 9 furlongs and beyond, and that's why she's here.
And the number 7 is Beau. As we mentioned at the start when we were analyzing that pace projector, she's got tactical speed, so maybe the plan becomes to go forward in here. And I guess that gives her some sort of advantage in a race where most of the other shorter prices figure to be rallying from way off the pace, Mike. But as you go through her recent form, I just found it really hard to make excuses for her. She's gotten some good trips recently and just has lacked any finish in her recent starts. She ran some okay speed figures going back to when she was in the Christophe Clement barn, but just a horse that feels like she's kind of fallen apart for Safi Joseph. So I'll be interested to see what price she is in here, but I couldn't really build a strong case for her.
No, I couldn't either. Even when she won that first start for Safi, I mean, she just had a really easy trip on a slow pace. Even that race, she tried to pull herself up in the stretch.
Yep.
And listen, that's a really good horse that was running at her at the end there. No Mo Candy. That horse has actually turned out to be really, really good. This horse's last 2 starts on synthetic are terrible.
Let's throw up our picks for this Thursday race of the day. And Mike, I think we're going to go in the same direction here with the number 4, Awesome Spirit Gal. What kind of price do you think might be fair on her? I don't think we're going to get the 12 to 1 morning line. Half of that might be generous, just given the way this field is shaping up. But there are definitely some interesting things to point out about her.
Yeah, I just didn't really like anybody else in this race. If she's around 5 to 1, David, that's good enough for me.
I was going to say the exact same price. I think 5 to 1 would be fair. The number 4, 4261 for Mike, and 4231 for me in the Thursday race of the day, race 8 at Gulfstream Park. Good luck if you're playing the races this week.